Rob Grill, I read somewhere that he may be having health issues.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was on my Facebook, someone posted it, so you can do a Google, but I appreciate you sending me the Glenn Campbell, because I forgot I'd written 3 reviews on him.
Yeah.
It's just so hard to, all this stuff, you know. How do you keep track of it all? Let's ask you.
Well, how do I keep track of it all? I don't know. I just keep track of it in my head, and I try to retain as much as I can.
It's so hard, though. I mean, you know, you're talking about thousands of records.
Yeah, I know, and sometimes you have to look up information on it, look at the label, read a bit about it, but you sort of find out things about these songs many years later in many cases that you never knew about certain songs, like, you know, Elton John playing piano on He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother by the Hollies as a session musician a year before he had major success with his first hit, Your Song.
And did you ever hear the Elton John collection of covers, where he actually did cover songs?
I did, yeah. That was amazing. In Britain, he did all these cover songs. And
Spirit in the Sky, our friend Norman Greenbaum.
oh yes, right.
Norman grew up around here, you know.
He did, and isn't he? What is he? He's a farmer now, not a dairy farmer, but a goat farmer.
No, I don't think anymore, because I did an extensive interviews. He's a friend. We stay in touch, and when he comes out here, you know, he rings me up. I think he sold the farm. He's still out there in California.
Right.
But, you know, the record does really well. It got into zillions of movie soundtracks.
Oh yeah, and he must be making a fortune on royalties of that, because it's still being played everywhere.
And the good news for him is he got in that Rock Band 2 or something.
Oh,
Guitar
yeah.
Hero. They had compilations of Guitar Hero. Like Aerosmith Guitar Hero was a monster, right?
Right.
Or Aerosmith Rock Band, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Sold more than any of their albums. Norman Greenbaum's Spirit in the Sky is on one of those compilation versions. And that's an amazing other source of revenue for these people that came out of left field.
That's right, and then of course Doctor and the Medics covered his song, and the fact that he wrote it, he did very well with that as well.
It hit number 1 3 times in England. It was number 1 for another fellow. I had the video. I actually gave it to Norman on the show. There's some young teen idol from one of those, came in second place on one of those, you know, England's Got Talent, whatever.
Right.
And he had hit Spirit in the Sky, and it went to number 1 again in England.
I mean, it's amazing how someone that is perceived as a one-hit wonder can make so much money off of one song and the offshoots of it. I mean, I bought a few of his other 45s after that, Canned Ham being one of them, and California Earthquake being another. I thought they were pretty good songs, but basically he's known as a one-hit wonder because, let's face it, Spirit in the Sky is the song he's known for.
And he said that Canned Ham drove the record labels crazy, but you and I are the only 2 people who know he did that song. And Barry Scott of the Lost 45s, you know.
That is, yeah, that was. It's quite the song, and there's a lot of Lost 45s in this book, the 70s. When you look through this, another great thing is you can pick it up and open it at any page, and you'll just say read, and you'll find out things you know about the songs that you've heard 1,000 times. But then again, you're also going to see titles that you. But wow, I almost forgot about that song.
Some of them I'd like to forget.
Yeah, there's a few, but those ones you don't hear much anymore anyway. But there's some real gems in here that you can just pick up any page or any year. I mean, everybody has, you know, maybe a favorite summer too. You can look back at the section where I have summer in the 70s, where I have the top 17 hits from each summer, year by year, and you just pick any summer and say, wow, that brings it all back. When you look at the songs from that, because it's part of the soundtrack of our lives.
Can I read one of them?
Sure.
Last Child by Aerosmith. Because I got Ken here. Ken is a legend of the Boston scene. Ken Seltzer, my co-host.
Oh, yeah.
Last Child by Aerosmith was the first single from the hard rock album Rocks, and was written by lead singer Steve Tyler with guitarist Brad Whitford, who gets the spotlight after performing this in concert. So, you know they sung Back in the Saddle Again?
Right.
Looking for Miss Suki Jones?
Yeah.
I named her. So she worked for my dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she was Suki, and I named her Jones because she was infatuated with David Bowie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Suki Jones. So when she knew where Tyler was, and she kind of ambushed me, we're in my van back in 1972 or something, right?
Right.
And my photographer's in the van, and there's me and Jeannie and Suki. And Suki goes, go around the corner here. But I didn't know Stephen Tallarico had a friend that lived there, Steve Tyler.
Right.
And we're in Boston, right near the Boston Public Library. And she goes, stop the car, there's Tyler. So she gets out, and she asks for his autograph, and he goes, sure, he was all excited. But Jeannie thought he was pompous, so Jeannie goes out and goes, are you a rock star? It was great. But he goes, yeah. And then he goes to Suki, what's your name? He goes, she goes, Suki Jones. And he goes, I love it! He screamed, gives him the autograph, goes and writes that dirty, filthy song. Years later, she became the girlfriend of David Robertson. After she was the girlfriend of David Robinson from the Cars,
Yeah.
David Robertson from Aerosmith, who taped the Pump video. And so she'd be going to the beach with Steven, and he'd be calling her every night, Suki! But, he met her on the street corner. Then later, years later, they were friends. But, there was never any kind of, all the stuff in the song never happened.
Really? Wow.
So I couldn't resist. I had to go digress, sorry, but.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, there's almost a story behind every song, isn't there, when you think about it?
Well, yeah, because, it's Steve Tyler, and he meets this girl who was a very foxy, half Polynesian, half American girl. Her father was in the Army. I loved her mother and dad. They were good friends of mine, and she gets immortalized in this song.
Huh. Wow.
So, but then she was, working with the guy that was driving Steve Tyler around everywhere for years. But anyways, back to your book. I love this stuff. Like the Boston connections with all these hits, right? Because Ian Lloyd's in Boston tonight from New York.
How about Please Come to Boston by Dave Loggins? That was, of course, a big hit back in '74, and of course he was the cousin of Kenny Loggins.
I did not know that.
And as a songwriter, Dave Loggins also wrote songs like Pieces of April for Three Dog Night, and later Morning Desire for Kenny Rogers. And he also had a big hit with Anne Murray called Nobody Loves Me Like You Do back in the 80s. But Dave Loggins, basically, that is the song that was a top 10 hit for him in '74 summertime.
And, it's synonymous with Boston now. Do you ever play it in concert, Ken?
What?
Because you do a lot of folk stuff.
Yeah.
But Kenny Loggins was in town with Keith Lockhart on the Esplanade like last week.
Oh, really? Wow.
They do those, they did Danny's song, I read in the paper.
Right, yeah.
Who do you like better, Danny's song by Kenny Loggins or Anne Murray?
Well, I'm so used to it by Anne Murray because that was the one that got played here in Canada so much. But I also like Kenny Loggins' version too because that's, of course, the original.
All right, now you're a Canadian DJ.
That's right.
Okay, so do you have now I love the Guess Who, but do you have more of a liking for your countrymen, Anne Murray, the Guess Who?
Yeah, sometimes, I must admit they do get overplayed because we have to play a certain percentage of Canadian content on radio.
Still?
Yeah, still, yeah. It's 30% for AM radio stations and 35% for FM.
Isn't that great?
Do you play all different kinds of music or one kind?
Yeah, well, we play oldies in our station. We're considered Canada's #1 oldie station, and 50s, 60s, 70s, what we're all about.
Oh, I see, okay.
And we have a huge listenership, and also online now more than ever, too, because people listening anywhere in the world and requesting songs. And we're located in a city of 500,000 people, Hamilton, which is about an hour drive from Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And I live in St. Catharines, which is about 15 minutes away from Niagara Falls.
Now, it's free to listen to on the web, right?
Oh, yes, yes.
So what's the, how do we dial you up?
It's oldies1150.com.
Oldies1150.com. That's so cool.
Yeah, and so we do have a lot of listeners for sure online listening. It's growing all the time. That seems to be a real growing area in radio these days.